so doesn't have a way to get the immunity from that body press. That could be a big problem for him to deal with.
Well, Pokemon trainers, the trainers on the stage already, so let's jump into the action here. Zamazenta and Fluttermane coming straight out of the blocks here for Mika on the opposing side. A dominating Raging Bolt with an Incineroar.
Yeah, the Incineroar putting immediate fake-out pressure onto that Zamazenta. Of course, the Fluttermane in a nice position here, activating that booster energy here, and is going to get a boost to its speed, so it is going to be faster than everything on the field. The Raging Bolt returning with its booster energy of its own, activating that, but getting a special attack boost. They're going to be a lot more oppressive going into this next turn. Zamazenta here probably not wanting to sit in front of a fake out, get that disruption, and take a big attack from the Raging Bolt. But the Raging Bolt at the same time hasn't got the usual Assault Vest, so has to be very careful in front of this Fluttermane that does provide big, super effective damage.
That's the thing, Raging Bolt does have the capability to go for the Terra Electric, drop that Dragon typing, and therefore its vulnerability to a potential Moonblast, as well as then boosting up the Thunderclap even further. It's already special attack boosted thanks to the booster energy, and a Thunderclap could be a way to try and deal with this opposing Fluttermane. It's very formidable on the field, and you want to just try and remove it to help out your partner Pokemon.
But we are going to see a Terastallization kick us right off in this turn one. The Raging Bolt going for that Electric Terra, taking away the very weakness here from that Fluttermane and putting on some big pressure as the Moonblast fired out into it.
Going to be able to take that so much better now as Zamazenta follows up with the body press. Again, not able to get the KO, and Raging Bolt able to go full power here with the Thunderbolt. Will connect down onto that opposing Zamazenta. Does over 50%, so it cannot afford to take another one of those. And Incineroar, for good measure, goes for the Taunt. This means the Iron Defense will be locked up and Protect will be locked up. Zamazenta very exposed.
Yeah, huge turn here, especially for Mika, really identifying that the Raging Bolt is the big threat there. We forgot to mention that the Dauntless Shield ability on the Zamazenta activated, giving it a +1 to its defense, making that body press hit even harder. But even the double up with the Moonblast and that, not enough to take down the Raging Bolt. And now still the Thunderclap is something that Mika has to consider here. It is probably enough to take down that Zamazenta. Took the Thunderbolt really well, but it is a pressure situation here where a double up from the Incineroar, especially because there's no protects coming out from that side of the field after the Taunt, could be something that we do see, and may mean Mika has to reposition here. Fluttermane in a decent position, but we are seeing the Protect.
This is wise, though. You know the Fluttermane is faster, and another Moonblast will finish off that Raging Bolt. So a wise defensive play by Alvaro, maybe allowing the Incineroar to go for something like a Parting Shot and just get some adjustment on the field. Zamazenta, however, finding super effective damage. That's a one-hit KO on the opposing Incineroar before it could even go for anything. Fantastic play by Mika.
That is a huge turn here from Mika, really identifying that the Incineroar was a threat from the body press, taking the opportunity and removing it from the field, really playing super well here. Mika pressuring the Raging Bolt with that Moonblast, and knowing that Alvaro had to either reposition or protect there, opening the door for the Zamazenta to get some real headway in this game.
Zamazenta does jump in for Alvaro now, though, able to get the Dauntless Shield defense boost up. However, that was such a devastating turn. Losing your Incineroar, losing that potential switch-in of Intimidate against the opposing Zamazenta and your fake-up pressure going forward, particularly considering the Fluttermane once again still in prime position to go for a Moonblast and KO the Raging Bolt.
Yeah, that's the big problem here. The Raging Bolt is at risk here. It does have access to the Thunderclap. Can it get some value before it goes down to an incoming Moonblast? That's the big question. Or does Alvaro want to switch it out? Maybe bring something in out the back to take that a bit better. Keep that Terastallized Pokemon for a bit more utility later on, because the Zamazenta now does pressure the Fluttermane with the heavy slam. So that is something that Mika is going to have to be aware of as well. And in response to this next turn, we are going to see Mika go for the Terastallization into the Zamazenta, revealing that Ghost Terra type.
Oh, I absolutely love to see this on the Zamazenta. Just going to be able to reduce its previous weaknesses it had on the field. Now the Raging Bolt can go for this Thunderclap, but which target has it gone for? It's going to be going straight down. It's the opposing Zamazenta and gets the KO with a critical hit.
That's a huge, huge knockout here for Alvaro. He pulls himself back into this match, taking away the risk of that body press into his own Zamazenta and wasting the Terastallization. Now the Moonblast going to be enough to pick up the Raging Bolt, but the sacrifice made was worth it, taking down and getting good return for that Raging Bolt, leaving the Zamazenta open to fire off an attack.
Yeah, this is Zamazenta's moment here, able to just go for the heavy slam, bop into the Fluttermane, remove that from the field. Another one-hit KO coming through here. So much damage. Lee, I just want to dial it back a little bit there. That ghost terrestrialization, really love to see it, but do you think it was actually detrimental to the Zamazenta there?
I think so, because at that point you knew the Thunderclap was the kind of the last ditch move that Alvaro was going to go for before the Raging Bolt went down. So maybe it would have been better in that situation to not terrestrialize, maybe keep it for something later on this game, because now you do bring in your Incineroar. It does pressure the Zamazenta on Alvaro's side of the field, but you do also have to contend with the Rillaboom fake out here. You have fake out of your own if you're Mika, but after that's burnt, the Zamazenta is free to just protect here. And have you got enough in your arsenal to take down the Rillaboom in one turn and then concentrate down onto the Zamazenta before it gets a body press off, potentially picking up the knockout onto that Incineroar?
It really has been about body press here. Mika being able to show a lot of offensive pressure with the one on the Zamazenta, and now you have got a Pokemon in the form of the Incineroar that cannot go for any terrestrialization into the water type that it's running here on Mika's side to stop the opposing body presses coming through from the Zamazenta, particularly considering the Rillaboom's just trading a little bit of fake out here. They have been burnt, though, both these trainers down to their last 2 remaining Pokemon, so this will be it for this game 1.
Yeah, and you think as well, if you had preserved that terrestrialization rather than going for it on the Zamazenta, if you're Mika, preserving it for the Incineroar to at least take away the weakness to that body press, maybe giving you a little bit of a better helping hand. But the thing is, in front of a Rillaboom, you don't really want to be water terrestrializing your Incineroar because you become weak to the grass types. I think the way that Alvaro's maneuvered this end game is perfect. Body press coming in, not enough though to pick up the Incineroar.
Incineroar just able to hang on, but not for long, because high horsepower doubled up into it to guarantee the KO. Masterful play by Alvaro, leaving just the Rillaboom now to face down against his counterpart and an opposing Zamazenta. I mean, this was the thing. We saw how much body press does to the opposing Incineroar. Was able to get the KO on Alvaro's side, but I like how I like how Alvaro was able to actually realize, hey, it may not get the stretch here. I need to double into it.
Yeah, and I think the use of the Raging Bolt at the start of the match from Alvaro can't be understated enough, because I think when you look at it, you say, oh, well, you're terrestrializing it very early on, you're in front of a Fluttermane, you're taking a lot of damage from the double up there. But the value that Alvaro got with that Thunderbolt initially onto the Zamazenta, putting it in range of that Thunderclap from the following turn, I know it got critical hits, so that might have factored into it a little bit. But I think putting yourself in those positions, utilizing the Raging Bolt, getting a lot of value out of it, whereas if you look at Mika's side of the field, got pretty much zero value out of the terrestrialization. And I think that's what Mika's going to have to do going into game 2, because had a very good start to the game, but really didn't get any value after that terrestrialization happened, and the pieces kind of fell apart after that. Alvaro really capitalizing and taking full advantage of having the Zamazenta on the field, whereas Mika did not.
I like as well how Alvaro was able to play around the opposing Fluttermane, because Mika using that booster energy gave it the speed boost, and you could see how formidable that was. The Moonblast were able to apply a lot of damage, forcing that opposing Raging Bolt to have to go for the terrestrialization. However, when you've got such a heavy physical attacker and steel type as well in the form of the Zamazenta going for these heavy slams, there's not a lot the Fluttermane can do. Its terrestrialization is also the fairy type, so it has no defensive capabilities here. I think if you're Mika and you bring that Fluttermane again, it's a key piece, so protect it better. Make sure that it's in a position where it can keep applying pressure and doesn't just get completely bopped by the Zamazenta.
Yeah, and exactly that, because I think Mika has got the tools to protect the Fluttermane. You've got the Incineroar, you've got the Rillaboom that you can cycle in and out onto the field with that fake out support that would give a bit more alleviation with the Fluttermane against the big threats, because I think that's what you need to really do. Get the most out of the Fluttermane until you've got some good returns on it, some good value from it before it goes down, and then maybe look at your Zamazenta as your last piece of the puzzle that you bring in the late game, more fresh, healthy, and able to kind of put a bit more pressure onto Alvaro's side of the field. Almost do what Alvaro did in that match, but reverse it for your side of the field.
Well, let's go game 2. Remember, the trainer that wins this set will be guaranteed to advance into day 1, regardless of how their final match of the day is able to go. The lead straight out of the blocks, Mika with the Zamazenta and the Fluttermane against the Rillaboom and the Raging Bolt on Alvaro's side.
Yeah, we've got that same situation. You've got the fake out support from the Rillaboom here from Alvaro, and the Raging Bolt here that is going to put on a lot of pressure once again to the Zamazenta, in particular on Mika's side of the field. It does have to be careful again around the Fluttermane, but it's easy enough for Alvaro to say, okay, I'm going to fake out here into your Zamazenta, I'm going to terrestrialize, and I'm going to get that Thunderbolt into that slot. But Mika can react to this, can maybe protect the Zamazenta return, try and utilize the Fluttermane. It is immune to that fake out, so try and just pressure pressure the Raging Bolt from that side of the field while not giving up so much health so freely on the Zamazenta this turn.
That's true, and you could always try and go for something on the Raging Bolt, like the Thunderbolt again, just to get some damage down onto that opposing Flutter Mane. But actually a defensive play by Mika here, trying to scout out what Alvaro wants to do, and goes straight away for the Protect, as does the Raging Bolt actually. Not going to lock in any terrestrialization early doors in this game too. As Zamazenta goes for the Iron Defense, Alvaro leaves it unchecked, no fake out, so it's able to get another defense boost up in addition to the one it got from its ability.
This is a great play from both players here, to be honest. The Raging Bolt protecting here is a nice play because you don't have to commit to your terrestrialization. You protect yourself from that big fairy threat, but at the same time, if you are Mika, you're taking the chance here of having the same thing play out as in game one, but saying, no, I don't think you're going to do that this turn. I'm going to go for the Iron Defense because now I'm +3 defense. My body presses are going to be absolutely walking through your team on anything I hit. So really putting the ball back in Mika's court, Alvaro has to respond this turn and not really got the Pokemon you would want out on the field at the moment that are the responding Pokemon to this threat in Zamazenta.
Honestly, the Zamazenta looks set for this game. There isn't, as you said, a lot on Alvaro's side that can really take this damage. You do have utility with Ghost Terrestrialization on something like the Incineroar or the Pelipper to avoid taking that damage, but these Pokemon are staying on the field for this turn. Thunderclap, Grassy Glide coming through, not enough to get the KO onto that opposing Flutter Mane, so it can go for this Moonblast, and you can see how much damage it does when Raging Bolt stays as a Dragon type. Follow up with a Body Press for good measure, and that's a knockout.
Yeah, this is a lot better here from Mika as he is able to get rid of that Raging Bolt before any value is taken from that Pokemon. Of course, the terrestrialization not committed to that slot and still an option for Alvaro, but the big thing is that the Raging Bolt has been removed now and the Zamazenta is so healthy. It's full health and in prime position to potentially take advantage of that terrestrialization this time around, because last game we saw taking so much damage up to that point where it wasn't really in a place where it could utilize that terrestrialization. Now the tables have changed. We're going to see the Incineroar come in, drop an Intimidate, and put that fake out pressure back onto that Zamazenta for at least one more turn.
Thing is, you can throw an Intimidate down. Those defense boosts are there to stay on Zamazenta, helping out that body press. With the Incineroar on the field, you could go for something like the fake out into the Zamazenta. You can go for the Grassy Glide to try and get the knockout onto that opposing Flutter Mane, but Flutter Mane has the utility to protect, or Mika can even capitalize on that, make a switch. Maybe there's that Rillaboom in the back that isn't going to worry about taking any of these Grassy Glides and can then apply fake out pressure in that following turn. Additionally, on Mika's side, you have the terrestrialization. You could always go for something like the Ghost Terror on your side, and that just puts you into a really strong position once again.
Yeah.
I think, however, if you're Alvaro, you kind of have to Ghost Terrestrialize the Incineroar. Maybe not on the fake out turn, but otherwise these body presses are coming for you.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I think there is the fake out pressure here, but there is the possibility of terrestrializing. We are going to see the Flutter Mane leave the field. Like you say, preserve it for later. The Incineroar coming back into the fray. Going to drop an Intimidate really good onto both of these physical attackers. In the Rillaboom, the Incineroar dropping that attack by one stage and also providing that fake out support the next turn. Rillaboom making its way off the field as well, and Zamazenta coming out for Alvaro.
You know, I like this from Alvaro, knowing that the Flutter Mane is not going to stay in and just get KO'd, so switches it out, resets that Intimidate, and brings the Dauntless Shield Zamazenta onto the field. As the Sparkles hit the stage as well, terrestrialization on that Incineroar, of course it's going to become a Ghost type. It cannot risk being O-code once again by a body press.
Yeah, really smart terrestrialization here from Alvaro, going for that to get the immunity, but Mika not baiting it, going straight for another Iron Defense, boosting that defense to +5 now as the knockoff comes out into what was the Flutter Mane. Now the Incineroar getting rid of the safety goggles, but not too effective, not really going to bother Mika very much at all. Now has access to that fake out, but with the protect on the opposing Zamazenta here, you would expect that to be the option. How do you deal with this Incineroar? Because, yeah, you can go for a heavy slam, but it's not really going to be that effective into the Incineroar this time around, and you still have to worry about the Flare Blitz it is super effective into, even though you have all of those body iron defenses under your belt.
The Ghost Terrestrialization on Zamazenta is now actually interesting, because if you do that, you leave yourself very exposed to the knockoff that we just saw coming through for the Incineroar. I don't believe that you can actually knock off the shield of the Zamazenta.
No, you can't.
But what you can still do is super effective damage to a Ghost type.
Yeah, and if you land a critical hit, you ignore all of those iron defense boosts. You put yourself in a precarious position, but that's exactly what we're going to see. Mika going for this Ghost Terrestrialization. That's all the talk of the town at the minute as we see this Zamazenta on Alvaro's side just protecting his turn, not wanting to take any unnecessary damage. Fish out what is happening, and it is that fake out into the protect.
Yes, it's the only Pokemon that can really take that damage with all the ghosts we got running around. As Zamazenta goes for the body press, again, just connecting down into the protect here. And I actually forget all the defense boosts on Zamazenta. It's not worried about this knockoff at all. The parting shot, however, will be reducing its attack, but once again, Zamazenta staying strong with these defense boosts. That means that in the face of these physical attackers, and if you look at Alvaro's side, it's Rillaboom, Incineroar, and the Zamazenta. All of them hit on the physical side. It's sitting very pretty on the field.
Yeah, and the problem is now you can see what Alvaro's trying to do maybe before the terrestrialization from Mika is rotate, cycle in that fake out support. So now you've got the fake out potentially into the Zamazenta. The problem is the Ghost Terrestrialization gives you the immunity from that fake out, and now Alvaro's Zamazenta are in a really awkward position. Does it switch out to the Incineroar that can come in maybe in place of it to alleviate that pressure because it has the immunity to the body press? Maybe that's what we see. We are seeing initially Mika just switch out the Incineroar on his side of the field and bring that Flutterman back into the fray.
Yeah, this could be a nice position if maybe something like a body press is coming down into that slot, being another ghost type in the fray. It's not going to be taking any damage from that. As Zamazenta on Mika's side goes for the body press and gets the knockout. So much damage coming down from these body presses. Mika in complete command and control of this game too.
That is a huge turn there here where Mika identifies, I'm going to go for the body press, because even if you switch in the Incineroar, the reward if you keep that Zamazenta on the field is just too high for me to ignore. The Incineroar coming back into the field, but now it has that ghost type in, is going to be weak to ghost type attacks. We can take a look at the Flutterman that is part ghost, and it does have access to the Shadow Ball.
Zamazenta saying, take a chance on me, I can get the knockout, and he certainly did in that turn. Here's another body press going into Rillaboom, and look at that lead, another knockout coming through. Mika forcing through this game 3 in such commanding fashion. There's the Shadow Ball coming through from the Fluttermane. Not often we see this doing a lot of damage to Incineroar, but it's going to be a 2-hit KO here. Well, maybe not so much with the little snack it's got in his back pocket.
Yeah, just having
it's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time, because Mika still has one Pokemon to reveal. Going to see the knockoff into that Zamazenta, do super effective damage, but 20 damage is not going to cut it here against this Zamazenta, and of course you are going to be taking another Shadow Ball for your trouble this next time around, and because of that, Alvaro cancels in the loss here. Mika taking the win, tying this up, taking us to a game 3.
Wow. I mean, I was not expecting Mika to come out and be that strong and that dominant coming out from that game 1. And I think playing so masterfully with that Zamazenta was the perfect strategy coming through.
Yeah.
Making sure that I think the Ghost Terrestrialization was utilized at the correct time here, making sure that you were the one capitalizing on those fake out opportunities. And I think calling his opponent's bluff a little bit more is what gave him the momentum to go for those iron defenses.
Yeah, I mean, huge testament to Mika as a trainer. And, you know, no wonder he's at this stage of the tournament in such a tough field. It's 6-1 record, really showing after that game 1 where it felt it slipped away from him slightly, bringing it back in such dominating form in that last game, and really picking the moments, identifying what went wrong for him in game 1 and adjusting it for the game 2, making sure that the Zamazenta was protected a lot better, making sure, like you mentioned, the Flutterman was protected a lot better in that game, and really taking advantage of the terrestrialization, which he wasn't able to do in that first game, and making it nearly impossible for Alvaro to kind of get any clawback in that last game. Now, it's all back in Alvaro's court now. Can he respond and answer what Mika has just done in that game 2? Because he was very convincing in that game 1. He got a lot of utility out of the Raging Bolt, which wasn't really able to get any out of in that last game. So I think that's something to maybe look back on, because you can't allow the Zamazenta on Mika's side of the field to freely get those iron defenses like he was able to in that last game, because that was the crux of the battle for Alvaro, and I think that's something that you really need to identify early on. Maybe look at something like the Pelipper that has that big special attacking damage that can come onto the field. It's not worried about those iron defenses. If you do get in a situation where he is able to set them off, at least with the special attackers like the Pelipper, like the Raging Bolt, they can do big damage to that Pokemon and ignore the boosting side of its play style.
And I think as well, when there are no Iron defense is in play, the Pelipper doesn't worry too much about the body press, even more so if they want to terrestrialize and go into its Ghost Terror type as well. One thing that I think Mika did very well in that previous game as well was utilize the speed a bit better, using that Flutter Mane with the booster energy.
Yeah.
And if you want to shake things up and maybe go for something like the Tailwind on Alvaro's side, that takes away that key component and momentum from Mika. So I agree with you, Lee. I wouldn't be surprised to see some Pelipper in action, and there we go. It's coming front and center with Zamazenta on Alvaro's team. Alvaro sticking with Flutter Mane and Zamazenta.
Yeah, this is much better here from Alvaro. Like we said, with that Pelipper, it is going to bring the rain, but along with it, some big, powerful water-type attacks. And more importantly, the speed control, which negates any sort of action from that Flutter Mane that just was so free to fire off attacks in that game one.
The thing is, though, the Pelipper is definitely not safe. You could easily double up into it and remove it from play. And I think the speed is actually with Mika there before even something like the Tailwind is able to go off. The issue is you then leave your Flutter Mane very exposed to the opposing Zamazenta. It's going to be able to absolutely remove it from the field with a heavy slam.
Yeah, and that's the big problem, I think. Is the trade-off worth it in this situation to get maybe some useful damage off here? You're not picking up knockouts onto the Zamazenta or the Pelipper, and you're probably just putting them in range for something else to have to come in and clean up. Can a double up pick up a knockout? Potentially, yes. But like you say, is it worth exposing it, leaving it exposed? Because doing that, we identified that as a big problem in game one. If Mika does leave it exposed, doesn't protect it well enough, you're not getting any value out of it. And then Alvaro can really take a grip of this match and start a huge momentum swing.
And if that Pelipper protects as well, then you really have no reward for your risk. But we're going to see once again Zamazenta go for the Ghost Terrestrialization, not wanting to take a potential body press from the opposing Zamazenta. And I wouldn't be surprised to see here, Lee, a little bit of similarity where it is the Zamazenta on Alvaro's side as well, going for the Terrestrialization into the Grass Terror type.
Yeah, it's a really nice option here because it does take away, you know, some weaknesses, even though you're going to still be taking big damage from things like that Moonblast, which is actually fired into the Pelipper. The double up, though, into that slot, identifying it as a big risk, takes it down very early on in this match.
Oh, Pelipper, we've hyped you up so much, but unfortunately wasn't to be in this match. Mika knowing that it needs to be gone, and exactly as we were saying, the trade-off is you do use the Flutter Mane, but I think guaranteeing on Mika's side that there's no Tailwind, no potential Hurricanes coming down to hurt this Rillaboom that's coming in for Mika as well, could in the end game really help out.
Yeah, and I actually really like the play here from Alvaro, even though losing the Pelipper, because you say, okay, well, if you double into my Pelipper and I do lose it here, I lose my speed control, yeah, sure, that's fine, but I'm going to remove your Flutter Mane at the cost of that. So the one Pokemon that you do have the speed advantage with, that puts a lot of pressure onto my Raging Bolt in the first place, is going to be removed at the cost of you taking down my Pelipper. So even scores at the moment, you would say that the Zamazenta on Mika's side of the field does have a little bit of an advantage because it is immune to those body presses that can be fired out from Alvaro's side.
Yes, Rillaboom on Mika's side as well has the advantage of having that fake out in play at the moment, choosing which Pokemon it wants to slow down. I think maybe stopping the Zamazenta in its tracks from going for another body press into something like the Rillaboom and whittling away at it could be strong. But at the same time, on the Raging Bolt side, we've seen how devastating it can be with something like a Thunderbolt. And there is no terrestrialization though, however, so you have to contend with the fact that those electric type moves are not going to be boosted, but they're still going to pack a punch.
Yeah, and you have to be careful for Alvaro taking the defensive play here because it could open the door for Mika to get an iron defense off, and that's what you want to try and avoid. Big fake out into the Zamazenta, and here we go. There's that iron defense, boosting the defense on the Zamazenta on Mika's side to +3.
You're really relying on your special attackers to come through now. The Thunderbolt connects down onto the Zamazenta, but it's not going to be enough to get the 2-hit KO, even considering the fact that you've got that grassy terrain in play, boosting up some of the HP remaining. It's going to take a lot to break through the Zamazenta, and I can guarantee it's going to be getting knockouts as time goes by.
Yeah, this Raging Bolt feels very, very vulnerable right now. If a body press comes out into that slot, it is likely going to pick up the knockout. The one thing that you say Alvaro has at their disposal is the Protect, which you don't normally see on the Raging Bolt. So it can protect, maybe get some value out of your own Zamazenta this turn. Maybe go for an iron defense if you want, or just fire off if you're confident in picking up the knockout onto the Rillaboom. Go for that. Limit the ability of the supporting options next to the Zamazenta on Mika's side of the field, because I think that's what you've got to do at this precise time, because you can't really effectively deal with the Zamazenta. You could go for a Thunderclap here, but at the cost of probably losing the Raging Bolt. And will that Thunderclap be enough?
Zamazenta on Alvaro's side actually just going straight up for a protect here as Zamazenta goes for the body press into the Raging Ball. There's a critical hit and a one-hit KO. There is no stopping Mika and the Zamazenta today.
That is a huge, huge knockout here, and the critical hit, whether it mattered or not, I don't know, but the double up was there anyway. Alvaro losing a key member of their team as Mika creeps ever so closer to closing up this game 3.
Zamazenta, honey, I'm not stopping you in your tracks right now. You are absolutely on form. And I do not know what Alvaro has to be able to counteract it right now. It's the Ghost Terror type, so you cannot go for any body presses of your own. There's really not a lot that the Rillaboom can do to it. It's not running knockoff, for example. It's just got that utility with something like Wood Hammer or High Horsepower. But again, it's a physical attack. And there is an iron defense up on that Zamazenta.
Yeah, that's the big problem here. And I think with the numbers advantage that Mika's got as well, you can see can cycle in something in the back. It is the Incineroar, can come in if it gets in for free, if the body press isn't into that slot, which it might likely be. You're going to have access to fake out the next turn. Even if the Incineroar gets taken down here from the opposing Zamazenta on Alvaro's side of the field, it opens the door for your Rillaboom to just come back onto the field and have access to that fake out once again. And that Rillaboom on Alvaro's side is on a timer, because once the body press is targeted into that slot, it is undoubtedly going down.
I like this. Zamazenta taking a little bit of a rest, going for one protect, as Rillaboom tries to get some damage on the vault with the Grassy Glide, but to absolutely no avail. The opposing Zamazenta can go for an iron defense, however, capitalizes on this opportunity, and considering that, again, on the opposing side, there are 3 physical attackers, this could put Alvaro a little bit back in the race.
Yeah, and I like that play. I like the idea of not going in, committing to the attack, taking the opportunity when it's there, presented to you to get those defense boosts, because I think that does keep you in the game slightly. I think this is looking like it is going to come down to a Zamazenta versus Zamazenta endgame. And you would say if it does come down to that, Mika is in the driving seat, because you're the one that can avoid the body presses. You don't really need to worry about their heavy slams, because, yeah, you've got your defensive potentially +4, +5, +6. And the only thing that would threaten you in that situation would be the body press.
Yeah, that's the thing, and the heavy slam's not doing too much considering they're also the same weight. The fake out coming down into that opposing Rillaboom here, just stopping it from going for anything too much, and the body press stops it for going for anything at all.
Yeah, goodbye, Rillaboom. Thanks for coming, thanks for the fake out, but it's time to go home. Same to you, Incineroar, because now it is home time as we have Zamazenta facing down against Zamazenta. Of course, Mika does have the Rillaboom in the back to bring in, and you can see how useful this grassy terrain is, in particular with Mika's Zamazenta, because it is just helping top up very slightly every turn that health, and to a point where it is going to be more in control. It does this fake out, if nothing else, gives Mika the opportunity to go for a fake out and another iron defense.
Yep, there's one fake out to slow the pace down, allow another iron defense to come into the fray, just to make sure these body presses are dealing as much damage as possible to this grass Zamazenta on the opposing side. And as we've already said, the fact that it's a ghost type means that there's nothing the opposing Zamazenta can really do, particularly with the high HP remaining on the Zamazenta. On Mika's side, the heavy slams are doing nothing.
Yeah, and it's time, I think, for Mika to lock in with the body press, and we'll see how much this does. It comes in and doing decent enough damage. The grassy terrain left the field now, so no more recovery as a body slam comes in, a body press into the Rillaboom. Not quite enough, so the Rillaboom going to get at least one more turn out of this, or potentially take up a turn going for the body press. As you can see, another one coming in to Alvaro's side of the field, and the Rillaboom finally going down.
I mean, you did call it earlier, Lee. You'd say a Zamazenta face-off at the end of this, but due to just the fact that the Zamazenta on Mika's side can just keep going for body presses, it's going to be able to clean this up. And Mika will not only win the set against Alvaro, but book in day 2.
Yeah, what a great win here for Mika, coming back from adversity, losing game 1, but is our victor in this Swiss round 8.
Zamazenta has been a Pokemon that's really rising up the ranks, and I would not be surprised at all to see it pick up in usage for trainers watching, trainers maybe standing by and catching a glimpse of this match, because it just demonstrated why it is definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, an incredible win here from Mika. Like we said, losing that game 1